topic has been already today a little bit. How much does this game really matter as opposed to any other regular season game because it's New York and they're the defending champion? And is it an early test that matters?
Whose topic is that?
Actually, several people there brought it up, and Caitlin was chatting away about it. So.
I think it's a good measuring stick for us. Certainly, they've accomplished what we're striving to do, and they return the nucleus of that team. So I think for us, it's a good challenge. It's a good test. It's also a good test for us how quickly we can turn around scouting reports. Playing a late game Thursday night, we're challenging our team in different ways. Walking through yesterday and being able to carry that over as well as improve on some of the areas that we need to improve on from a game ago. So, right now we're focused on us and continuing to get better and continuing to execute game plan. But it is a good measuring stick for us.
Yeah, just with Sophie coming back on Thursday, how did she change your rotations and what kind of spark did you see her bring?
Well, she always brings a spark. I mean, her energy, her communication is elite. Her ability to play multiple positions, to handle the ball, her movement without the ball, her IQ, her toughness, so she certainly helped, particularly in physical ball games, right? Like having her physicality and having her toughness helps. She's also very poised, right? She can keep our team poised in huddles. She can keep our team poised in the locker room. And that all of that having nothing to do with, the stat sheet. So her ability to knock down shots and get us into offense and all those things as well. So it changes the rotation because it adds a little bit different depth on our perimeter. It adds a little bit more versatility. So it cuts into some other players' minutes. And, for us, it's just continuing to focus on how we become the best team that we can be.
Yeah, Steph, the other night was the first time since Caitlin's sophomore year she hadn't hit a three-pointer, and I just wonder if you could talk about it as a guard. Just that's actually hard to do to have that much consistency, even though that's kind of her specialty. But you won the game anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is hard. I mean, the consistency with which she's been able to do that. That I didn't know that, and so I think for us, it's she got some good looks. Atlanta played her differently, right? They played her tight. They stayed on top of her. They didn't allow her any looks. Good teams are going to force her into tough twos. And so our ability to kind of find in flow the areas where we can get her loose, how we get her loose, is going to be a growth process for our team. It's going to be us pointing it out, not just in film, but then when we have opportunity to practice, go through reps in practice of what these angles look like. It's her being a really good cutter and screener herself. I think she missed some opportunities that we talked about there. We have to anticipate that. Teams are going to give us different looks. I thought she was incredibly patient. I was so proud of her, not just with the physicality with which the game was played, but, wasn't getting the looks that she was used to getting. She was patient. She was poised. She made the right play. The play that she made at the end of the ball game to find AB was elite. She could have very easily got impatient and just taken a bunch of shots. But that shows her growth, and it shows the depth of our team to be able to come away with wins in those types of situations.
Coach, to that point, Caitlin talked about the balance in the offense, playing off the ball, getting the ball, getting out in transition. How do you work on that? What have you seen so far in finding that balance where she's got the rock or she's coming off screens, getting open looks?
Yeah, some of it will be based on how teams play her. Some of it will be based on, after free throw, after timeout situations, dead ball situations. Then it becomes, getting comfortable in what we're looking for, off of that. I think, Caitlin's ability to score above the break on the three-point line is elite. We got to figure out how we use her when she gets below the break. What are some different actions that are good to get her loose? And, again, great scorers, if they're great screeners, they're going to get open looks. And so continuing to emphasize that and how we use her. Caitlin's a player that right now has the most talent around her that she's ever had. And now, our job as coaches is how we figure out how to put us in position to be the best team that we can be to compete nightly.
Coach, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Dewana Bonner. You've had experience with her, obviously, with you both now coming here from Connecticut. Mm-hmm. What do you see as the vision for her in the rotation on the court? And also, what have you seen already from her off the court from a leadership perspective?
Yeah, DB's probably had the toughest transition of anybody. She was really a priority in us getting her shot opportunities in Connecticut and how we got them in a slower paced system. Now it's finding where we can get it in flow in a really fast system with heavy ball dominant guards. You know, when you think about Caitlin and Kelsey. And so for us being intentional about the actions that we can get her into, I think we've got to do a better job of getting her in the middle of the floor. And oftentimes she's getting into the corners and not getting out of them. So that's just going to be adjustments that we have to make as a coaching staff, points of emphasis that our team has to make when we're on the floor, because she is a matchup problem. And finding rhythm in flow. It's not going to be slow down, run set all the time, but how can we get to action that highlight what she brings to the table, naturally and in flow. And so that's going to be a combination of practice work, of film work, of conversation, of all of those things. And, her leadership is just incredible. She's a strong voice in the locker room. She's a veteran presence who's been through it all. She's played with elite players before. She understands how to communicate with them, and they respect her. And so having a player like that in your locker room, when you're traveling on the road, can help you understand perspective and priority, is really important, and she's been huge in that area.
Coach, the last game against the Dream was very tightly officiated. What did you like about the way you guys held your composure and any areas of improvement going forward when a game is, tightly officiated?
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought we did a good job of maintaining our composure. It was a physical game. Both games, really, were physical games. I think for us, and especially for our young players, that's a growth process. I was really proud to see in AB especially. Poised composure, and then not allowing it to get us tunnel vision. I thought in the first game we did that. We over dribbled. We didn't see our teammates. I think we had a 50% assist to made field goal ratio, and that's not good enough for us. I think we were 64 in game 2, so did a better job of finding the open man. But I also think we did a better job of cutting. I thought Natasha Howard was outstanding in her ability to find those 90 cuts, those 45 cuts, get to the rim. Lexi, of course, is an elite cutter. And having Sophie back on the floor and able to do that helped as well.
Caitlin just talked about her friendship with Tyrese Halliburton and kind of using him as a soundboard just to talk basketball. They're both such unique players. Do you use anything he does or the Pacers do as kind of reference points for you guys? Well,
I think for us, we're very similar to the Pacers in how we want to play. We want to play fast. We've got great depth, and so we can utilize our bench. We want to pressure 94 feet. We might not pull away from teams in first, second, and third quarter, but hopefully our depth allows us to do that in the fourth quarter. We've got players who aren't afraid to make the hard, tough crunch time plays. And, I thought it was really, kind of the epitome of the Pacers last night when you listen to Pascal Siakam and you listen to Tyrese talking about any given night, it can be anybody's night, right? There can be a different leading scorer every night. I think we can be that type of team, buying into the we over the me. And really epitomizing that in how we play. And I thought Tyrese's point, they're going to try to take him away. And his ability to get others involved early is a great lesson for Caitlin. She's been able to do what she wants to do for the most part because she's a generational talent. But the great teams are going to take that strength away. So how we utilize others around us, how we as coaches start to find advantage in some of those what might be perceived as disadvantaged situations is going to be our growth process as a unit from May until August, September when we want to be peaking.